Hi On-Ramps Geoscience teachers. This video will help you work with Learning Catalytics in setting up your classroom, running a session, and a review of peer instruction. So the first thing you'll want to do is log into Learning Catalytics, and you'll go into your class. So I have a bunch of classes, but you'll just have a couple. So I'm going to click on my class here, and then you'll see your list of modules. So the first thing you have to do before you run a session is set up your classroom. So if you go to that settings button, and here you'll go to the classroom. So we want to click create a new classroom. And you have to do this in order to be able to group your students. So I'm going to call this Geo Test Classroom. So you can name your classroom whatever you would like. And then you're going to add seats to your classroom. So you can add blocks of seats, or you can add individual seats. So whatever your classroom looks like, you're going to set it up, and then make sure you hit save down here. And you only have to do this once, and your classroom will be set up and good to go. So now we're going to go back to our modules. So if you click on the title there, it'll take you back to your module page, and I'm going to show you how to run a module. So you can either click on this little wheel here and click Start Session. So I'm actually going to run the Earth Systems module. So I'm going to start the session. And then if you're running on an extended screen, this is the student view screen that you would want to drag over to your other monitor. So I'm just going to minimize it for now. And then here's your session ID. So that's the session ID that you want to give your students. So I'm going to have some test students log in right now. Okay, so now I have 2 students in my session and I am ready to go. So I'm going to deliver the first question. So remember, hit deliver. And you can see over here when your students start to respond. So my students are going to respond to this question. And for this question, there's not a correct answer. That's why none of these boxes are green, but you can see that one of them chose B and one of them chose C. So I want them to discuss their answer. So I'm going to click Assign Groups. And so it'll first bring up the default setting. So a default is a group size of 2, but you can change that if you want your students to form larger discussion groups. And this indicator is what it's going to pair them by. So you can pair them by their response or their score for that question. And we want to pair the students so that they all have different answers. Really, that promotes the best kinds of discussions. But if you wanted people to talk who had the same answers, you could also select that. And then grouping students, so if you want them to really move around and get across the room, you can change this to within 3 seats of each other or anywhere in the room. If you want them to talk to somebody close to them, you would select the default. And now we're going to group and deliver. And your students on their screen will have an indication of who they should talk to. So I've got Dolly Pardon and Loretta Lynn. So right now they are talking to each other and they're having a really good discussion about this question. And remember, you never want to reveal the answers to your students before they've discussed. So I'm going to prompt my students to answer this question again and submit their answers. And after their discussion, they came to the conclusion that the atmosphere is the sphere that the clouds belong in. So now as a teacher, we would, if needed, talk about this question, talk about the answers, and then move on. So if you want to go on to the next question, you would stop delivery of this question and then move on. So again, we've got our next question. We want to deliver this question. so that our students can answer. And again, we see the responses over here on the side. So, Dolly and Loretta, they weren't listening in class. So I'm going to have them talk this one out. So I'm assigning groups. I'm just going to use the default setting, so group and deliver. And now they have this question again on their screens. So I'm going to have them get up, talk to each other about it, and they're having a really good discussion. And oh, good. They decided to both revise their answers, and they both chose B. So since it seems like they really got it, I might just briefly touch on the answer to this question and explain it, or I might have one of them explain it, and then we would move on. So I hope this helps you with your Learning Catalytics sessions. I'm going to stop this session right now and say OK. And then when you go back to your main screen, you can see, if you do the entire session, you'll see the results in these little pie charts here. All right, have a wonderful weekend.